welcome everyone to the RSP Film Room. I am Matt Waldman, and today I am joined by guest Kyle Krabs of NDT Scouting. Kyle, welcome to the show. It's great to have you back on.
Matt, this is third year running, so thank you for having me back. I must be doing something right if I keep getting the invite, so that's how I'm looking at it.
Man, Kyle is doing a lot of things right. And Kyle, if you'd like, I would love for you to tell folks about, NDT Scouting for those of folks who may have been in a cave somewhere. As far as those who are really into being into the draft and maybe in a cave, you can bring them out of it.
Sure. NDT Scouting is I started things up in 2013. This is my fourth draft class. Try and go through player assessment, looking at your film study is obviously your core piece, kind of sets the tier of the caliber of the player that you're with, and I supplement that with some statistics and analytic based measurements, whether that's combine or size or production, game experience, and just try and paint like a really detail oriented picture of each and every prospect that I look at. I do 300 a year. We have a growing staff, which is the first year I can say that. We have Joe Marino, Roger Dixon Jr., who's a graduate of the University of Florida football program, 2016, Scott Bischoff, and Elliot Christ. Great group of guys we're really looking forward to over the next couple of weeks. Hopefully, we're going to be finding ourselves in a new home, bringing you guys written content on a day-to-day basis. And obviously, those scouting reports that I've done, those are available to you guys, and we'll have some more details about that in the coming weeks as well.
Absolutely excellent work that they do. And I would tell folks right away that, you know, while while during this time of the year, this is the time of year I think all of us as draftniks and folks who are producing content, while we look at other folks' stuff on occasion, we tend to really stick to watching our own tape because that's mostly what we have time to do. All our time is devoted to our own study. But when I'm done and it's April and it's like I want to look at prospects in addition to the ones that I've done, but defensive prospects, offensive line prospects, and I want to learn about this draft. Kyle's work is one of those works that I look at on a regular basis, and I would definitely endorse for anyone that is out there that is interested in the draft and learning more about these players. Today, we are going to take a look at a player from when I did this. I asked all of the writers that I've invited to do a little homework on players, and it's kind of a little bit of a newer format, and I'm going to have them lead through it. And with the defensive players, at least for right now, I'm not wasting anybody's time by like trying to study right now as I'm trying to do my own thing on offensive skill players. So they kind of get the floor when they choose a defensive player or an offensive lineman to kind of share, and then I can just comment as an observer and be kind of the gopher to pick the film up here and go from there. And that's what we're going to do today with Kyle's choice of TJ Watt. So tell us a little bit about the choice of TJ Watt and things about him that you feel like we're going to see in this video.
Well, let's get this out of the way. The name's Watt, right? So yes, it is J.J. Watt's younger brother, another Wisconsin Badger, was a fairly highly regarded tight end prospect coming out of college, has played the defensive side of the ball for 2 years. So try and keep that in mind when you're watching. This is a 2-year defensive prospect. It's a little lean. I think you'll see that fairly early on as far as his frame. The functional strength is something that is hit or miss, but he does make up for that with some pop in his hands, which I'm looking forward to getting into some detail-oriented bits on that. Sat out 2014 with a knee injury, and that's when he made the switch over to the defensive side of the ball. So he's been rush linebacker, stand-up guy. They move him around. They like to get him in different spots, and I think that versatility is another thing that you'll see a good amount of. And reason why I picked him is I'm notably high on him. I think he's a potential top 50 caliber prospect, and there's some voices out there that I really respect that are pretty notably at odds with that. So trying to bring that to the forefront and just kind of use this platform that Matt's been gracious enough to share with me to show what it is that I see that I like.
And that's what makes us so great because, man, when we have divergent opinions that we can highlight on a show, And I think that's what I love about this community as a whole is that we have a lot of knowledgeable people who will come at a player and have a diverging opinion on them, and to be able to have a productive discussion on it. So, being able to put this out there is going to be awesome. So, for those of you unfamiliar, we're just going to watch the tape. We're going to have about. I gave Kyle a checklist of things that I'd like him to show, which are basically must see type of plays from a positive standpoint, from an area of where he maybe needs to improve, things about athletic ability, conceptual skill, technical ability, things that might be confusing to a viewer or even to Kyle himself when it comes to what he's looking at, because we all encounter that confusion with players. There's certain plays that we look at and go, well, it could be this or it could be that. I don't know about you, Kyle, but I purposely at times space out my evaluations of a position. Like I won't watch
Yeah.
all in one group because I've learned over the years that sometimes I'll accidentally watch a player with the same game twice, and then I want to go back and look and see if I scored him the same way,
Right.
and I
Yeah.
feel good when I'm within like, usually I've gotten to the point now that it's like if I miss something, it's because it was a judgment call where I
Right.
was feeling positive about it, and then when I watched it again, maybe I felt neutral about it,
Sure, because if you watch like the same guy or the same position two or three times in a row, whether you realize it or not, you're going to focus on the things that you didn't see from the guy beforehand.
Yeah.
So now you're just you're not measuring on a scale of what do you want to see in a vacuum. You're measuring on a scale of what did I just see with the last guy.
Yes.
And that's the really hard thing about drawing lines between if you're going to watch the same position in consecutive groups, that line gets real blurry real quick.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. So having that space and time to look is important, and I think that's why probably when people say, "Well, the NFL knows X, Y, and Z," um, and they've got all this info on a player, you think, well, if you understand the logistics of evaluation, it's probably understandable why they're also coming to conclusions as late in the game as they are. It's
Right.
not that they've known for a year and a half what they think about this. Oh, really? The last game this guy just played was like 4 months ago.
Right. That's why the board changes until 2 weeks before the draft.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So we're going to get this started. Let me share the screen here.
He's up here at the.
The top left here.
This may be the play after what I'm looking for.
Okay, we'll do one more behind it here.
Yeah.
There it is.
Yeah. So it's just a really simple concept of understanding when you're not going to get home, right?
Yeah,
So the stand-up 2 point, you get a quick set. Quarterback takes a short drop, and he's already eyeing right up the left side. Understands he doesn't have an angle. And there's a really nice level of pliability that he's going to show here in the shoulders to kind of come back across
yeah,
with that free hand and get after that football.
yeah. And that's a nice subtle point there with that because, I mean, you see guys, we talk all the time about athletes who are stiff and who are flexible.
Yeah.
And these are the types of things that, you can have a conceptually sound or aware player, but if you're stiff, it's not going to help you.
And I think flexibility through the torso and the shoulders is a really underrated aspect of assessment of the trait. When you're talking about pass rushers, everybody wants to know, can you hinge at the hips and do you have ankle flexion and can you carry speed throughout your pass rushes around the edge? But the ability to turn the shoulders and get skinny, or even if you're getting outside this position group, but defensive backs being able to use your full range of motion through your shoulders to maximize your wingspan to the best of your ability, that's a really underrated bit about flexibility and what you're looking for in these players.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's a really good point to look at. Let's look at the next tape. All right, so let's take a look at this play. And here we have Watt once again on the right-hand side here.
He's on the second
Oh, he's
level
on
at
the
the
second
snap.
level. Yes, he
Yeah, so
is.
this is that example of how they like to move him as a rush player. Really aggressive take on the running back to
Yeah.
be able to beat that first point of contact. So you don't want to put too much stock into the fact that he beats the running back in protection, but he is consistently with his film. You see constant examples of these crashes through the interior gaps where he's able to play off of contact, and at some other times, not in this particular instance, but he will collision offensive linemen to occupy and create gaps for teammates before subsequently playing off of contact and getting backfield pressure. So I really like that about his game, is how multiple he can be as far as standing up and being an impact player in any number of roles that you're going to ask him to be.
Makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. What do you think about, just out of curiosity, well, and I may be skipping ahead here, but what do you think about his hands in terms of even just grip with finishing a play? I always knew that, like, people raved about J.J. Watt's grip and his ability to really, once he got his hands on you, it was over.
I think it's one of his best traits. For, especially when you consider this is a 2-year player on the defensive side, his run fits are really strong. You see some nice nuance with his pass rush counters, as far as there's a play a little bit further down the line where he rushes the outside, and just there's a subtlety to what he does when he hits his counter move uh, that really illustrates a lot of functional intelligence as far as applying what you're coached into a live game situation.
Cool. Okay, good. All right, well, let's look at our next play. We're going to pull that one up. All right, so we got him off the left side. And looky there.
Yeah, nice cornering. And this again goes back to torso mobility and flexibility. He gets his hand set. He's got a nice inside arm fit. The outside arm's on the outside shoulder, so he can leverage that however he wants to. Here he kind of goes for a press, and just how tiny he's able to get those shoulders to turn, where the left shoulder is almost pointed towards the broadcast camera. There's no surface area for the tackle to take anything on.
Yeah.
And then he does a nice job carrying that momentum through. And that's one of the things that he does need to get better at, is this position right here where you have it frozen. Uh, Getting that to grab is something, and be able to carry that through the final turn is a work in progress for him. But this, I thought he did better and better at throughout the course of the season to get better. And this was obviously the last game he's played.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's take a look at it. We'll look at it one more time all the way through. And describe a press for someone who is not technically savvy as to what that is.
Sure. So your press, once you get your hands set, so right here he's establishing first contact. He's actually gotten a little bit of a favor from the left tackle because the hands appear to be a little low from your tackle. But once you get the inside arm fit, as a rusher, they teach you to attack half a man. So getting that inside arm fit and establishing contact to be able to continue your momentum, and then getting that outside arm fit so that you can maybe go for a club, or in this case a press. He's going to continue to leverage and press that tackle's outside shoulder to produce turns. So you can see here where it's frozen, the offensive tackle has hinged 90 degrees from the line of scrimmage. So he's gotten himself into a very favorable position with the way that he's utilized his hands and aggressiveness from a wide angle to be in a position where he's 4 yards into his rush and he has a wide open avenue to the offensive, or to the quarterback.
Excellent explanation there. All right. Good stuff. All right, let's look at our next play. We'll get started one more time. Here we go. All right. Now we got him off the left side here.
So this comes back to, it's a different application of what I had mentioned with the stunt work and playing through contact and playing through traffic. This is a really nice, at this point, LSU's got a really favorable blocking setup coming here, where you've got two pulling offensive linemen with a fold block. You've got Watt, one other defender, and then you have the wide receiver on the corner at the top of the screen. So this late process that he has, where he's going to be aggressive to shoot across the face of a potential down block and manifest himself in the alley, and then playing off of that peel back block to help finish, is just a really nice understanding of filtering your way through bodies at the point of attack. He's not a press and hold edge setting type because he doesn't have the functional strength at this point, but this is a way that he can be successful as a point of attack run defender.
Those are great points here. And, that's the thing that's, imagine yourself as if you're from the defensive line's point of view and you're watching all these bodies moving around in this coordinated fashion, it's easier said than done to be able to work through this en masse. I mean, and part of it is recognizing scheme and knowing where these players are supposed to go, and what they're trying to do. And when you've incorporated what they're trying to do fast enough into your lexicon to process quickly and know where you're supposed to be in a reaction to that. That's excellent football. It's no different than quarterbacking in that respect. When you say, they have to have a fast processor. Well, against the run game, you want to have a fast processor about what the offensive line's trying to do. Yeah, really nicely done. This is a cool play from that standpoint. Are there players in the NFL that you might be able to compare to, not to him in general, but on this type of play of working through traffic? Guys who are good at working through traffic, who maybe limited to some extent in size or strength, that play the edge like this and do it well.
That's a great question. I've always thought about uh, Cameron Wake, maybe
Hmm.
as a run defender. Very different style players in that Watt doesn't have that level of explosiveness, but Wake's stature for a defensive end in a 4-3 defense does not lend itself very well to being able to hold a point of attack. And that's one way that he is able to be successful. Is it's more uh, penetration style versus stacking and keeping the outside arm free and stringing a play into the boundary, which is your more stereotypical way of playing along the line of scrimmage as a down lineman. Um, Trying to think of maybe a rush linebacker. Um, I think this is what Leonard Floyd did at Georgia well too.
Yeah,
Very stylistically, he's a little longer, again more explosive, but it's a more parallel um, comparison between the players and their roles at the next level.
I appreciate the level of imagination that you have with looking at players in a sense of being able to say, look, here's the book on what you're looking for, but here's also ways that it can work for a player, and being open to the range of possibilities. Because I think that while we may say that the odds are in the favor of going by the book, it's the players who can go against that grain who often make the biggest impact.
Right. No, and that's something I've found myself trying to trend towards more as I do this more and more. Is there's less and less hard lines in the sand, unless you're talking about totally lacking in a baseline level of whether it's strength or length or speed. It's one of those, you either have it or you don't. But as far as finding parallels between players and finding ways to be successful, it's something I've really found myself trying to key on more and more.
Excellent. Okay, well, we're going to go on to the next one here and see what we got more in store for Mr. TJ Watt. All right, now we're going to start looking at things to work on for Mr. TJ Watt. We're going to have him again up on the right side on this play.
So let's buckle in. He's going to get taken for a ride here.
Yeah.
Not where you're going to find success with him. No, he's in a closed position right off the bat where he's got to worry about somebody on either shoulder. Um, just lacks that baseline anchor. He's probably going to be. I think I'll be pleasantly surprised if he comes in at 250 plus.
Okay.
So lean in the frame, and that point of first contact, trying to take on a pure double team, is just it's a losing formula for what he is as a player right now. And I think plays like this are what some people are going to look at and they're going to say, oh, he doesn't have the strength to play at the point of attack. He can't be a point of attack defender, because they're looking for an archetype of what their baseline level of expectation is for run defending. And if you're going to ask him to be that kind of player, this is what you're going to get right now, and probably will get next year too.
So, so really, yeah. I mean, at this stage of the game, right away, what are you looking at for him in terms of you see him as a situational contributor in the beginning, or do you see him more as a guy that? What are some things that you could look at with this play and say, what will he have to do short term to be on the field in a situation like this? As opposed to just the long term, he's got to get stronger.
Right. So that's where I personally have the most conflict when I'm doing any player assessment is understanding there's a 1 year curve, there's a 3 year curve, and there's like your second contract curve, and being able to understand the player you get year one is not the player you're going to have in some regards. Players typically don't change as far as strengths and weaknesses, but there is development that can be had, and that's one thing I look at Watt as a 2 year player who's used to being an offensive player. Traditionally, all throughout high school and the first couple years at Wisconsin, and you would like to be project that there can be room for growth here. But as a year one player, yeah, you don't want to put him in the situation where your schemes either got to put an emphasis on playing him more in space. And I think he does do himself some favors there because he has adequate stand up ability, playing the flats, playing hook curl in zone defenses. Uh, but if you're going to have him walk up and try and slant inside on the C gap between a tight end and a tackle, um,
Yeah, good luck.
have somebody slanting behind him to have outside contain because you can't ask him with what he is right now to bubble that and force the back to cut back inside of him.
Yeah, yeah. And, on the offensive side of the ball, a player that I would give as an example is a good guy you would say 1-3 in second contract would be Tevin Coleman, the running back for
Absolutely.
Indiana. Because,
Mm-hmm.
1 year you'd say, yeah, good luck, because this guy, he played an outside zone scheme, but he didn't have the physical or conceptual traits either to really play that as well as he could. And I think Devonta Freeman kind of, if you look at them, it was kind of like teacher and pupil year one in terms of how to
Right.
run that scheme. And I think you can see this year that he made some improvements to his patience and his level of being able to process and set up cutbacks in a way that he wasn't as good at, and he's slowly getting better at it. Where we may be looking at him by second contract time and going, this is a good starting running back in the NFL.
Right.
So, okay, so let's go on. We're going to look at some more of Mr. Watt and what he needs to improve upon. Here. Okay, so this next one that you have is listed finish your splash plays. All right, so let's see what this looks like. Let's get it slowed down a little bit. All right. Oh
He
man.
does such a nice job getting himself into position. And it goes back to he does a nice job as he collapses down. He sees that there is a fold block coming across the set, and he does a really nice job again turning the shoulders, getting small, working across face to essentially put himself in a head up situation. What he does not do is he doesn't finish to bring the feet and come to balance, and he can't finish because his base is so far left behind him here that he's just grasping at air.
Yeah. Wow, that
But
was such a nice move in the beginning,
yeah,
though.
conceptually, you look at the collapse and then the ability to occupy inside. No running back's going to see that develop and think that the guy on the outside is going to be able to work across the face like that.
No.
It's a very nice, it's a quick process of seeing the block coming from across the set.
Yeah.
And that's, you see so much of that nuance that you could tell he's a film junkie, and he does a really nice job consistently putting himself in these positions. And so many times he ends up on the ground and he just can't quite finish it.
Yeah, because it's a running back. If you're watching this, you're looking at the location of the helmets or the hips on the
Yep.
defender.
Yep.
So at this stage right here, and even before that, the fact that he was playing the outside shoulder, you're thinking, all right, I see a flash in my periphery of this outside guy. I'm heading inside.
And you could see Moten's climbing the second level to pick off that linebacker.
Yeah.
This the way the angles lined up for the blocking scheme should have been a really nice gain hitting the second level hard.
Yeah. Because right here, this is where
Yeah,
the running back's thinking, I've got this. I'm basically going to work off a Moton, and I'm going to have a two-way possibly, depending on what this inside linebacker does, or whether 58 is able to slide off of here and make a play a little further down, and he's not. So it's going to be, I'm going to cut right back outside 72. No, you're not. And yeah, it's just so. Repeat again. What would you like to see him be able to do once he makes this slip with the inside right here?
when he, and this is a lot of his splash plays, he'll have free runs, off the edge. He'll have gap penetration plays where he's beating guys on inside, and he gets to that point where it's time to come head to head with the ball carrier and come to balance. And you can see right here is his feet are unable to keep up with his eyes. And if he's able to get himself square again to the line of scrimmage, the running back's not going to be afforded the chance to force this missed tackle here where he has nothing to bring the feet with at first contact.
Right. So what would you say? What would you say to someone? I mean, I'm just trying to think of criticisms here
Sure.
to this point. So what would you say to someone who says, well, if he's the guy responsible for this edge and he's going to take this chance of going inside like this, that's great that he's willing to have the creativity and he can see things to do that. But if he misses, he's leaving this backside wide open because he has no one really helping him out here in this open flat.
Sure.
So do you, at the same time, would someone say he takes too many risks, or would you say, these are good risks that you need a guy to be able to take?
I would say this play in particular is a good risk because there's a very evident avenue, right? Like it's very cut and dry as far as if I beat this block, there is a lane here that this back's going to be able to hit. So if you're going to roll the dice understanding that if you don't take the chance, you're going to be standing there with outside contain and the back's going up inside of you and probably getting a 10-yard gain.
That's an excellent point. And if you miss, well, he probably gets a 10-yard gain anyway, but that's not where he was heading to go, and there's a better chance that other players are going to get in the fray because they're
Right.
slowing him down.
Going to give a chance for pursuit to catch up. And you see it here where he holds this up at the line of scrimmage for a good half a second. Blocks are able to be disengaged and they rally to the football.
Yeah, so we're looking at instead of a 10-yard gain, you're looking at maybe a 5-6 yard gain, which still, 2nd and 5 is certainly better than 1st and 10. So, all right, we're more of that dumb common sense wisdom from myself, then we're gonna look at somebody else. Look at something else now. All right, let's see. This one you have listed as more lower half power. Yeah, you see him try
Yeah.
and even roll those hips a bit, and
Yeah, he gets low and tries to bow the back and press and extend. And the hands have good pop on contact, but the ability to convert speed to power, especially against heavier anchored offensive tackles, is something he's going to struggle with. And that's why I think he's going to continue to find his most success early on as a player from your wider angle rushes. You could tell at the alignment here, he's inside eye to outside eye. So he doesn't have a lot of extra space to work. So unless he's able to pop with his hands on first contact, which here he kind of commits himself to trying to collapse with a bull rush. Um, Again, it's just functional strength is a question, and how much he can get, how quickly is going to be something teams have to be comfortable with before they make that investment in him.
absolutely. And this is really a great illustration of both hand strength and then the lack of that core strength in one play. Hand strength, lack of core strength.
Yep. Because you can see he's got a nice extend, a nice inside shoot, and then there's just nothing he can follow that with if the offensive tackle is able to get established on a wide base and drop the hips.
Yeah, excellent example there, Kyle. Well, let's move on to the next. All right, so now we're going to look at something that you have called lack of finish. So we're going to see him again on this left side. Got an I formation. Let's see what's in store for us. I just watched this. Oh, he's on the right side, excuse me. Coming down the line. Is this the play?
I don't think this is.
All right, let me see if I missed. I think this is the same play we just showed here. It is the first play. So maybe we'll skip ahead to the second one here.
Yeah. I don't think that's it either.
Okay, let me pause it and see if we can
Yeah.
find it.
Yeah.
All right, now we're talking about finishing the play here, I think. If I can get this to
It's
stop.
going to give you a hard time now.
All right, what number was this?
Uh,
All right, we found it. So we got lack of finish here. So we're gonna look at this. And now we'll look at it in slow-mo a few times here. All right, got him up on the left side.
so this is, again, it's just going to go back to bring your feet, right? Like this is going to get knocked for not finishing a play, but he moves the quarterback off his spot. And in doing so, he's increasing the urgency of the ball coming out, where it's an easy throw, but now you've got 3rd and 7. So just that slashing penetration is, I think, something he doesn't get credit for quite enough, because he ends up with a two-way go here on your offensive tackle. And understanding that Fournette stepping outside, he makes the correct decision to step inside and come to the B gap and slant back in. He's got a subtle usage of length there to kind of make sure that tackle's not able to come down and wash him out. And he does a really nice job occupying, getting right in the face of the quarterback. It just doesn't finish because he doesn't bring his feet. So there's a ton of production here outside of the production that you see in the box score when you watch, or when you look him up. It's just, think about his opportunities to finish these plays and how much more effective he can be.
Makes sense.
So I think some people are going to look at the box score, they're going to see his stats, or they might go back over this game and review what he did and didn't do as far as productivity wise, and not necessarily realizing that there is additional production outside of the ones that are just kept in the box score.
Yeah, and I really do like that's when you noted that subtle use of length. I mean, right here, to be able to kind of turn that
Yeah.
shoulder and then use the arms to kind of as a way to say, you're not going to get into my body with your
Yeah.
reach.
He's barring off that late engagement on his right shoulder to push him down into other bodies. And he carries the lean fairly well. He just, again, it's coming to balance at first contact. I see this from a number of players, and I've been encouraged. Somebody like Deion Jones at LSU versus what he was able to do this year in Atlanta. Jones at first contact, he was so eager to hit people that he didn't square up. And then this year for Atlanta, he's been a very, very productive rookie player, one of the more valuable players on that defense. And that's such a simple fix, in my opinion, to get guys to just calm down. He's there. Now finish the play. Don't let yourself get so overexcited that you're going to end up grasping at straws.
Yeah, because that extra step actually would help you. That extra
Yeah,
step brings you in control, and you are just as good of an athlete likely as the guy or if not better athlete most likely than the guy who you're going to be pursuing at this stage of the game.
right.
And if you're in control and they try and move around you, you have options either for them to try and outflank you, or if they're starting to throw the ball, you're in position to get your hands up. So
So I
yeah,
just thought it's the nice combination of some nuance to his game as far as understanding where the leverage is as a rusher, choosing the right lane, some nuance in playing off of that contact to ensure he's getting through the gap unoccupied and unharassed, and then just that little bit of a flaw, and that play shows nothing in the box score because he didn't tally anything. But there's so much good to work with there.
Yeah, I think that you're bringing out some really wonderful nuance to this guy's game, just the intelligence in his game. And like you said, you can see why or how he's a film junkie. So let's look at the next one that you have on the list here. All right, so now we're going to look at him drawing attention, not production. So you're going to have him on the left-hand side here. I would imagine that what we're probably looking at here is probably the team focused on taking him away, or that would be my guess. Let's see what the actual point of this is going to be. Well, looky there.
Yeah. So you've got a nice win one on one with Moten. You're producing a very high amount of waist bend here, just trying to keep the feet in pace with what Watt's able to do. And this is a really nice still shot there as far as once you get that big waist bend, looking at some lower body mobility right there to be
Yeah,
able to catch this and ride that through for some forward push. And now you're getting double team because the back's sliding across the set looking for anybody that's going to come inside, and nobody's there. And it's very evident that Watts won the rep. So now you're drawing the attention of two guys. Look at everybody else on the Wisconsin pass rush. They're 3 yards back.
yeah.
So if you're able to get any kind of win from anybody else as a rush, this is a very valuable rep for Watt because you're occupying two blockers by yourself.
It's a
So
terrific point.
it's an opportunity for any of the other teammates to have a one-on-one situation, to have a very productive pass rush rep because he's taken away that extra piece of the protection scheme by occupying them both by himself.
And this is where you get to see someone like Kyle and understand why he has a good eye for what he does, because you're looking at the context of not just what the single player does, but how it fits in context with the rest of the play, and how it should fit in the context for it to be successful when you project it at the NFL level. And maybe he's playing opposite a Cameron Wake, or he's playing opposite a bigger guy probably who also can bend and get a pass rush, or someone up the middle, who is a power rusher who can collapse the middle of the field. And when you look at what he did here in context of not what's going on here as it is, but what may be happening in an NFL pocket, this becomes extremely valuable. It's
And
like,
Moten's a really quality right tackle in this year's class. So this is a really nice rush rep in a vacuum, just looking at how he's able to push hard up the field. Again, getting back to that shoulder mobility. He's getting really skinny in the numbers, right about, run it just a touch further. A little bit more. Right there. So you can see just how he's able to kind of greet Moten with the shoulders a little bit so that he's not getting ridden out past the pocket. Now, there's times when that shoulder mobility at first contact, you're using it to your advantage, but he, with his hands, wins at first contact. And now he's flattening himself out so that he can bring the hips and work the hips around the body of the tackle to finish the rush. So just in a vacuum, this pass rush rep against Moten, who's a really high caliber, quality offensive tackle, probably going to be a day two guy, is a pure win for him. And then you factor in what else he's doing and supplementing as far as occupying the running back as well, and giving teammates a chance to be successful.
that's an excellent rep to look at, Kyle. All right, let's move on to the next. All right, so this is a curious one because you mentioned in your email, you listed the heading as "Is he soft or not?" So tell me what we're going to see here.
Well, we've talked at length about the anchor and the lack of anchor and the lack of some functional play strength that you're going to want to see in an offensive tackle. But when you watch this rep and run it through, he's bullying Taylor Moten.
Yeah,
And Taylor Moten came in and checked in at the combine at like 320. And Moten's anchor is very strong. So this is one thing that I think really illustrates the first contact. And again, working back to his hands, I know I'm hammering the point about his hands, But this press, once he gets his hands fit, you can visibly see the space that he creates in pressing down in
Yeah.
and collapsing into Terrell's lap. And it's confusing, even to me, because you see some plays in the run game where the ability to play with power is just absent. And we had a play already that we looked at where we were looking at him on the other side against the left tackle where he's tried to bull. And you talked about hand strength versus core strength. So this is what gives me hope that you can work with his package and get yourself to a consistent high caliber of play in all phases of the game, whether you're playing with nuance, with strength, or with lateral agility as far as being able to cross the face of a blocker if you need to cut back inside, because he wins with the power in his hands here, and he's able to create push and collapse the pocket.
Yeah, I mean, this play to me looks like a perfect combination of not only the hands, because when you look at the way they're bent, this gives a really good picture of it, right? Even here, with his hands out, you can see that he's able to head completely downhill with Moten's arms kind of low here,
Yeah,
and you almost have them cocked. His elbows are kind of cocked, so that once he gets right into here, and with
he
the
can
lean he's
explode
got,
that.
yeah,
Yeah.
and he does that one little, like, you almost see this little bit like of a hesitation right here. When
Mm-hmm.
he makes that step, you see the hips kind of generate the power along with that, and he's kind of taking a little bit of a side too.
Yeah.
But it's, being able to come downhill like that, that's like a, it's like a truck with one of those big gates in the front of it that, or
you
the police
continue to
cars.
you continue to be the master of the analogies with draft assessment. It never fails. But and he's doing that by a guy that outweighs him by at least 70 pounds.
Yeah. So leverage is a beautiful thing in that regard, and certainly if you have, I think the thing that we see here maybe with him, and it would just be my thought, is maybe what we're seeing that's confusing with him about some plays versus others is that because he doesn't have that size and strength yet in the hips, is that he has to be technically perfect to generate that
Right.
kind of a thing. And with most players who are in the NFL who have size, you don't need to hit that bullseye on every rep to get success. Whereas with him, he's got to hit that bullseye every time if he's going to get a push.
Yeah, if everything's in line, you're going to get a really nice product off of it.
Right.
And then even just kind of going back to playing off of contact here, he gets off of Moten. He gets off 31, trying to peel back and seal as Terrell steps up in the pocket, and gets his hands on the quarterback. So it's playing through contact. He continues in spite of his lack of overall oomph and strength with just his generic ability to generate that. Playing off of contact continues to be something you see over and over again in this film.
Very good. All right. So moving on. And here we go. Look, a little bit of technique for our man here.
This is exactly what I just got done saying he wouldn't do with a whole lot of consistency. So here we are. We got a good rep of it. You could see the length. He's utilizing his length. 84 is, I believe that's Colin Jeter. He's listed 250. So it's a pretty comparable size advantage. And you can see right here, he's got the hand fit. He's going to press and extend. And again, first punch, he's resetting the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
So that handwork for 2-year player walking around 245, 250, the punch that he has continues to be really impressive. He has the length. He shows enough hip mobility to open the hips and carry some speed into the sideline while keeping that length engaged so that he's not bubbled back. And it's a nice team effort here to kind of play and rally at the boundaries outside the numbers and make sure that run doesn't go for a large gain.
Yeah, very nicely displayed here. All right, good. Moving on. All right, so now we're going to look at Watt attacking the inside out rush.
So I don't know if you picked it up on the first cut through, but he gives a nice subtle look
Yeah.
inside here to kind of create his avenue that he wants to work around the outside. And this is the rep that I talked about earlier, where if you watch when he hits this rip move, what he does with his hand to lift, he's trying to get on that elbow and lift that elbow up. And what that's going to accomplish is you can see how open the tackle's shoulders get very quickly once he's able to work that hand underneath and not just rip with the forearm, but actually work through that and over accentuate how high you're lifting. There's no way that offensive tackle is going to be able to produce any kind of counter if he's in that firm locked position. Now, the ball just happens to get out just beforehand, but this is another really favorable outside rush with nuance in that rip right there and lifting through
Yeah.
to generate high amounts of turn and corner with effectiveness.
Yeah. Because if this read isn't open, the quarterback is done.
Yep.
So very nicely done. All right. So what other techniques do we have in Mr. T? Now we're going to watch our man attack the football.
Yeah, this is a nice example of understanding when you rally to the ball, there's an opportunity here with the back engaged with another player. This ball comes out. And when Watt gets his first contact, 53's got the wrap. Watt's going to peel around, and the ball's in his right hand. So as the back's spinning away from contact here, Watt's greeting the ball in his right hand. And when he goes for the hit, he attacks the football, and it ends up on the turf here. So just an understanding of, you'll see this a lot in defensive backs, where they like to try and attack the ball like right at the catch point, but they don't put themselves in a favorable position that if they miss, they're not going to give up a ton of chunk yardage. There's a time and a place to attack the ball. And when you've got somebody with a really firm wrap and that back is in a low leverage position where he's trying to spin off a contact and it's an easy kill shot, it'd be very easy to just put your head into his chest and bury him. But when he comes in for this hit, there's an active effort to attack that football. And I actually have the all 22 of this game, and the back end view that we don't get a chance to look at gives you a really nice look of the awareness of identifying that the ball is there and making a play on the ball versus just trying to clean up the pile.
Nice. Yeah. And, you know, it's another example of his strong hands as well and that grip that he has that we
Yeah.
talked about earlier. So excellent points there. All right. Next on our hit parade. All right. So now we're going to see one more here. We got two more left that we're going to take a look at. And here he is off the left side.
Really nice look at lower half mobility here. And, we talked about not being able to always consistently get that ankle to catch when you're cornering, but he gets it here. There's right there and the next step too. He's got really nice, he's on a tilt. He's probably on that first step's probably a 60-degree tilt, in which if you draw the line from his ankle up through his hip, that's 45 right there. I mean, that's
Yeah.
really nice lower end flexibility. And he doesn't get a lot of credit for being loose. But again, it's the situational awareness of understanding where he's winning what reps. And he's at a wide ankle position here. So I think I would not recommend playing him in a 4-man front and having him with his hand in the dirt. But if you're able to stand him up and play him 2x2 or 1x1, he has this ability, and he's turning the corner. This is the first game of the season.
Yeah.
Nice encapsulation of some athletic ability that I don't think he consistently gets credit for. Again, because sometimes he doesn't finish plays, so you don't see him illustrate that same mobility or awareness of his base prior to first contact as you do in an outside speed rush like this.
Yeah, that's an excellent example of that. All right, and to close this out, we're going to look at transitional quickness. Let's see what that entails over here on the right side of this.
So it's that point of first contact. You see, I don't know if you saw that little duck that he gets the hand punch, and then transitioning into, okay, I'm going to take the outside avenue, where right after this, he's going to duck in, dip, and his ability to get that shoulder to shoulder while keeping that inside arm set is a really nice understanding. Like he's kind of reading where am I going to go with his first two steps. And once he gets his hands placed, he commits
Yeah.
and carrying through that and actively working into that transition that's a really nice illustration that when you can see how quickly he works around the tackle.
Yeah, the change in speed is notable.
And again, he's getting picked up by the running back. It's another example of occupying two blockers in one rep.
No, this is definitely good stuff. This has been a great show, Kyle, because I mean, you've really been able to display what TJ Watt brings to the table in terms of his football intelligence, in terms of his athletic ability. I mean, you certainly see the flexibility, both upper and lower half, and you've highlighted the importance of both and the underrated aspect of the upper body physicality and flexibility, his ability to punch, how to be able to, use his hips, but also at the same time, where he's going to have to improve in that respect. And then just, what I love when we get to watch film is when folks like you point out the intelligence in a player's game and how he's reading what the offense is doing and anticipating it and creating plays, making creative plays with it that help out his team. And we saw multiple plays from TJ Watt doing that. So I can certainly understand where you're coming from with him as a guy that maybe you're not in love with in terms of like an instant investment, but if you're a patient team and you're a team that is good at the draft, that usually means you're also good at investing in a player's development. And this is a guy that certainly looks worthy of investment.
Absolutely. And that's kind of I think people have their mental pictures that they paint of what they're expecting a first round pass rusher to look like. And he doesn't fit that mold for a lot of people. But understanding and projecting that forward into uh, understanding that okay, he's a fresh player here, but he's got a lot of stuff that you can work with is what has me really excited about his game.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is going to be a guy that I'm interested in seeing where he winds up and how he develops over the next couple of years. And I'm going to think of Kyle every time I see him because of some of those things that he showed and revealed about a guy's game. And it's going to be worthwhile to apply it to next time. If you're a draft Nick and you're interested in watching edge play, I think you're going to find a lot of good tidbits. You've probably found a lot of good tidbits from this session. I know I learned some good things, and it was always fun. It's fun to have Kyle on this show, and you should check out more of his work, and Joe and Scott and Elliot and Mr. Dixon over at NDT Scouting. I think I got everybody.
Yeah, you
So
checked all the boxes,
I've
man.
checked all the boxes. I can't believe it. I'm usually suck at names, so I think we did all right. So, for Kyle Krabs, I'm Matt Waldman. This is the RSP Film Room. You can check out more RSP Film Rooms at my YouTube channel, the RSP Film Room, or you can check out my blog, www.mattwaldmanrsp.com, for more content there. And for Kyle, see y'all later.